there are a lot of ways to go into business. A lot of people loved the thought of going into business, but there's a difference between actually starting your own job with the worst boss, because that would be you, and starting a real business where you work on the business, not for the business, where you use systems, processes, procedures, you develop leaders, while all the time remembering you're not the owner, you're actually the steward. And I want to introduce you to our guest today. Ron Bostic is a kingdom-minded man. He owns multiple franchises, and he's chosen a way to build a business that honors God, serves other people that work with him and for him, and really honors God by serving the people in the multiple places that he owns these businesses. So, Ron, welcome to Kingdom Entrepreneur, where we remember that it's his kingdom, but our calling. And just give us maybe a 60, 90-second kind of overview, 30,000-foot view of who you are and what got you to this point in your life.
Okay. Well, I'm a Christian, a follower of Jesus, and I'm a husband, been married 34 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. 2 grown kids, both in the early 30s, and now we have 5 grandbabies. So
that's even better than kids.
That's right. Enjoying the fruits of that. And and I have been in the franchising world for the last 15 years and trying to grow a business every day.
All right. So when you started off in business, like 15 years, I know you're a young man, but that means you did something else. So what happened in your life to finally bring you to the point where you decided, I'm going to go down this franchise path and really embrace it and choose for that to be the model for my business?
Yeah. Good question. Yes. So my early career was in sales and pharmaceutical sales, medical device sales, living here in Lubbock but working the West Texas region is what we all called it, and did that for about 15 years. And that was a great career, provided for the family and the kids as the kids were getting older, but always had an itch to do my own thing. And, was successful in sales, would hit goals and make bonuses and do all the things. And that was fun, but not like owning your own business.
Okay. And so when you decided finally to take the leap from being an employee, that I tell people, no matter what kind of job you have, you're really self-employed anyway. It's a pretty good perspective to think that you work for YOUE.
Yeah.
And sales, I think, is one of the beautiful places to create a career that really is dependent on yours. But when you made that decision to transition from sales for someone else to starting your own business, did you consider other businesses that weren't franchise style businesses, or what led you to deciding it's franchises I want to invest in?
Yeah, I did. I looked at all kinds of businesses. This is 2008, probably, right around the housing crisis, if you remember that.
Okay.
Economy was not good, but I was just driving around looking to see what was busy during that time. Okay. And automotive repair and body shops and aftermarket type businesses for the automotive industry seemed to be busy even during a down economy. And so I started looking in that direction. And I had always kept up with franchising. Growing up, we grew up with Entrepreneur Magazine.
Okay, right.
The real magazine. And they talked a lot about franchising. So maybe that's why I kind of got going down the path of that. But for me, it's a recipe for success already established with franchising versus create your own business from scratch. Will it work? Will it not? I think the likelihood of success might be a little bit better with franchising.
Okay. So, and I guess some of the things you really liked is that it was a proven model.
Yeah.
And they had systems and processes in instead of trying to figure it out. And I know a lot of our listeners and those who watch on YouTube really are in the beginning stages of business. Sometimes it's the school of hard knocks and you learn the hardest way. And so you chose franchising, and then talk to us through, because I know there are a lot of people who listen who would be interested in a franchise, but really ask, is it worth the franchise fee and the royalty? And so what are some of the criteria that you use to choose, because you've been in and maybe speak first of the different franchises that you've developed?
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So this is 15 years ago when we first got into franchising. Started with Christian Brothers Automotive,
Right.
and a faith-based automotive repair franchise turned out to be such a blessing from God. I'll talk more about that in a little bit. But yeah, started with that. Then I ran across Orange Theory Fitness, and as an ex-athlete, I knew how hard it was to stay in shape as I got older. And Orange Theory made sense. Just show up 3 or 4 hours a week, get results.
Right.
So I jumped into that one. And so that was our second brand we got into. And then I found the Joint Chiropractic. So we're in the Joint Chiropractic as well with 11 locations. And we've got an HTO in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. That's a West Texas-based organization out of Amarillo. And from Amarillo originally, and went to school in Canyon. And so I knew of that one. And then we're also investors in Seven Brew, a franchise brand, along with my son and nephew and a friend. They're the big ones in it. And my brother and I are just kind of investors in that one. So
when you're looking at a franchise, what are some of the real criteria, the big things that you focus on? You really want to know, is this something I want to pursue, or is this something I should pass on? Because the number of franchise opportunities is limitless. There's so many.
Yeah.
But what kind of criteria do you use?
Yeah. I think it depends where you're at in your life. For me, I was 45 coming out of the corporate world, getting into my first franchise, first business I owned. So I waited a little late in hindsight, but they say hindsight's 20/20, right? But yeah, to me, I did a lot of research, visited a lot of Christian Brothers owners, had multiple conversations to confirm there was an opportunity to make a better living than I was making in pharmaceuticals, medical devices, just to know that the opportunity was there. Didn't know if I could do it or not. So I knew nothing about automotive repair, but yes, just to know that the opportunity is there. And then as I stayed in it longer and got more brands under our belt and started participating with more, learned that, okay, these can be heavy labor or small labor. Oh, I'm going to stop it.
No, I think it'll take us back.
Okay.
Yeah. We'll give them a minute. But go ahead. Yes.
No, sometimes it's about the labor that takes to operate that type of business. Okay. I've learned with automotive repair, you got to have skilled mechanics. With a chiropractic care with a joint, you have to have doctors of chiropractic, and I'm not either one of those. Okay. So depends on the labor and things, lots of things to factor in.
Okay. Was there a point in your even working in sales, but really as you started developing your own businesses, where you really came to this realization, this is not really mine? Since God is God of all and He's King of Kings, was there a point in your journey where that really clicked for you and you said, this business or these businesses really belong to God, and it's better if I steward them than own them or hold them with a tight fist?
Yeah.
Was that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And that happened early on for me in business. Like I said, I was still 45 years old, but I was fortunate enough to get to know Ron Bostic, and he was a great man. He actually owned the land that was next to the Christian Brothers where I wanted to locate that. Okay. And the Christian church next door owned the land I was going to go on. And he was so kind and went to that meeting with me, with the elders, and helped me get that. But just learned from him a little bit as a mentor how he operated his business. And so I caught my first glimpse of somebody local who's doing it the right way in that manner.
Did you ever, speaking of Ron Bostic, were you ever part of their Kingdom at Work?
Never did their course. He just kind of mentored me. I was new to business, and I think he felt for me a little bit. But he just took me under his wing and would answer any questions and help with lots of different things.
And you mentioned a word that's really important, I think, and it's one of those, instead of just launching into it and learning everything the hard way, how beneficial, I suspect there was others besides Ron, but having Ron and others as mentors, how did that really benefit you in your journey of entrepreneurship?
Yeah, absolutely. Because you need to always be learning, regardless of how long you've been doing it or how many different locations you have. I was fortunate for my wife worked for Dr. Ed Wentz, and he's a top orthodontist in the country, and he's here in Lubbock. And man, she had a great 25-year career with him, but just observing and watching how he operates, learning how she talks about him and how he would lead meetings, and, godly minded man running his dental practice that way. Another example I had to watch from a distance a little bit.
Yeah. What a great benefit. And then when franchising requires operating within someone else's system, have there been times where you felt some conflict between your faith and maybe a system or an approach that was dictated, as it were, from a franchise? And how did you handle that?
Yeah, maybe not an approach or process that was dictated that would go against any kind of moral judgment or anything. But when we were getting in the Orange Theory franchise, we were at franchisee training. And keep in mind, this is in Florida where this was started. And the guy that was putting on the training class was trying to teach us to sell in a very aggressive manner. And my wife and I, we looked at each other and we were like, okay, from West Texas, that's not going to fly. So just maybe changing our approach to something where it's not doesn't feel like it's, pushed on anyone or something like that, because of just how our personalities are of people in West Texas.
Right. Yeah. And then I know that some people have shared with me that's a concern going to the franchise route is that they feel there'll be a distinction between their own personal values and their way of doing things and what's required by the franchise. But you've been able to navigate that well.
Yes, yeah, and absolutely. Actually, the joint brand, we're open 7 days a week on Sundays as well.
Okay.
And normally we're supposed to be open 10 to 4 on Sundays. So I approached corporate and just said, hey, most of our people want to go to church on Sundays, and we would like to open at noon instead of 10.
Okay.
And it took a little convincing, but they went for it. And so now all of our locations that we own open at noon on Sundays. So it's an individually owned business underneath a big franchise brand. So you do operate it like you want, but they do have guidelines. So if they say you have to be open 7 days a week, you still have to be open, but there's flexibility in there normally somewhere if you can work your way through that with them.
So with your faith in the Lord and following Him, how do you think that's really blessed your businesses, and especially the way you treat your team members, and then by extension of that, the way you treat your customers in whichever one of the franchises that you speak or think of?
Yeah. Well, it's all about people. And we've learned that as we've gotten just more experienced in business as well. But we're here to serve them. And you mentioned earlier about stewarding what God has given us, because that's truly it. Once you get your mind wrapped around that, hey, God's given all of it to you, then it's a nice to get up every day knowing that I'm hopefully making Him happy and how I do things. And it comes into every aspect of how we manage our business, because, our mission work is to our employees, right? As a business owner.
Speak more to that.
Yeah.
Mission work being to your employees, because I know for some of the people who are joining us, that'd be wait, what do you mean by that? So help us understand what that means to you, and then some of the practical ways that you do that.
Yeah. A lot of people that go to church and believe in Christ aren't comfortable in maybe saying that and telling others about that. And so some people feel they have to be in a position at a church to talk about it, or to try to get others to follow you to Christ. So Lori and I, we look at our business as, man, that's our mission work. If we can show our employees that we live our life this way, and it's not just lip service, it's how we live, it's how we operate our business. Maybe it's part of our mission statement or our core values or whatever. You live it out in front of them, and then they see that. And we have had team members that are now going to church regularly. They too have built a relationship with the Lord, Right. That's so that we look at our business that way. And so It doesn't have to be a position in a church or anything like that. You can do it in your business every day.
I encourage business owners because just the contrast. If you think about the position in the church, you may have an hour, 2, 3 hours a week,
right?
But at work, I guess there are still some people who have a 40-hour work week, but a lot of people spend a lot more time than that at work. And what a great opportunity to do that. Have there been some times where even you struggle, or is there anything you would say to someone who is struggling with, wait, can I talk about my faith in the business setting? Can I talk about my faith, employee to employee or as owner? Is it okay for me to talk about my faith and how the Lord's made a difference in my life, and for me to even pray with my employees?
Yeah.
Has that been a transition for you, a challenge for you? Or again, if you were talking to someone who did, what would you say to that?
I would say definitely talk to your employees about it. Pray with them if you're comfortable doing that. They need to know who you are and how you operate your business and why you operate it in that manner. So, and again, you can talk about it all you want, but it's your actions that are going to stick with them. So I would say just let them see who you are for who you are and living it that way. But put it on the walls, man. Talk about it all the time. I mean, you're at meals together and you're having lunch with your team, you're praying before that, and they're seeing that happen. And before you know it, there will be these small things in their life you'll start recognizing that's impacting them, and they're changing how they're doing life as well.
What would you say to someone who in a similar situation to yours, and they say, if I say those things, if I put them out there's some times where it's actually hard to do that. And I think everyone who does, there is some criticism of saying, I thought you were a Christian. I thought this was a Christian business. What would you say to someone who's struggling with, I don't know if I want to do that because I know I'm not perfect, or to someone who criticizes and says, hey, you say this, but you did that, and that doesn't seem to fit.
Right. Yeah. You do have to put it out there, and you do have to, I guess, reinforce it. Okay. Because some team members or employees may think just because you're holding them accountable doesn't mean you're not a Christian. Or, how can you treat them that way? And really all you're trying to do is get them to do the role that you hired them to do. So that's a challenge sometimes, because people can question your faith because all you're doing is holding them accountable. So that's where it can come into play sometimes.
I've talked to some of my employees and said, you know why I'm doing that, don't you? It's because I believe you've got so much capacity. You're so much better, and I want you to be your best and to do your best. And that's our atmosphere is excellence.
That's right.
And so we want to live that way. And when I'm doing that, I'm telling you, I believe in you. It's not I'm hammering you. I know you're capable of more than that. And so I think that also is helpful for me. And there's plenty of times, for me, it's also a degree of accountability, because when I put it out there have been some times where I want to say, this is what I really want to do.
Right. That's right.
But that's not the way of Jesus. The thing that he said, maybe one of the things he's most famous for, is treat people the way you want to be treated. But what an incredible business value to say, if I was to switch seats, how would I want you to treat me? And then to do that. Let's switch gears a little bit. In building multiple franchises, scaling is sometimes really challenging. And so how, as you've scaled your businesses, and maybe that increases the complexity, how do you go from a heart of drifting to more stewardship and avoiding control and saying, man, I've really got to put these systems in place because it's getting bigger and it's getting harder. And yet to say, well, how does my faith inform the way I do that, and still live without me taking over, but saying, God, I want you to lead this, and I want you to own this. Yeah. Has that been a tension for you at times?
Oh, yeah. And it's hard to scale, and we have failed at scaling. Realize it, and that's when you learn, you go, I got to do something different. And you can go get advice in lots of places. Obviously, for anyone running a kingdom-minded business, is prayer, but coaches as well, right, to help guide you through that process of scaling and what you need there. But we are always in prayer of God bringing us the right people to add up to our team in the right positions on the team, and to also, for those who don't want to be on the team, for him to let them release him, go find something they'll be happy with.
You touched on something with the coaches and the mentoring. I work with a lot of Christian business owners and leaders, but one of my favorite things to do is to work with them in a mastermind kind of setting. Kingdom at Work's action groups, I'm a facilitator, and then I've got some that I do with others that it's still kingdom minded and it's business practices, but being associated with people, business owners who have so much in common, because there are, I guess you've felt it too sometimes, where you feel like, man, I'm all alone. I'm the only one who's facing all of these challenges, and I've got these questions that I don't know how I can ask. So has that been something important for you to also have those relationships with other business owners?
Oh, yeah. My wife has been praying for this for years, for me to have good Christian men around me. But we now have couples. We're part of Turning Point Church, and Chuck Angel, our pastor there, man, they got a second campus they're opening up over where the movie 16 used to be, right on the spur. And the goal is to reach 30,000 people in Lubbock. And so we're in a small group at our church, and it's business leaders in Christ. Everybody in our small group are business owners, and they designed it that way. So you're with like-minded people, and it's been fantastic having it around. We're doing Rooted right now. Just started that. And if you haven't tried that or checked into that, go learn about Rooted a little bit. We're just getting started.
So add something to your reading list and do something there. But it is so powerful to have people around. And you've mentioned things like that several times. I've thought about, Proverbs says over and over and over to seek wise counsel and the people that you surround yourself with. And I think it is a challenge for business owners to maybe let down the guard, or recognize maybe first, and then to actually let it come out of their mouth that I need some people who understand the things that if you don't own it, you're not running it, maybe the pressure isn't on you, that you just don't understand. And so I think that's a really important thing. How do you intentionally create a kingdom culture inside businesses that are part of the larger corporate franchise structure? And so how do you work that out in the multiple franchises to make sure that there's a Christian culture?
Yeah. Well, keep in mind, a franchise is normally a locally owned business just underneath a big brand. So you can operate that as you see fit. And if you want to have Jesus leading your business, and you talk about that in all your business meetings with your teams and stuff, absolutely should do that. And no one tries to keep you away from that. There may be some things that corporate does on a national, worldwide level that you morally might not agree with, that you choose not to participate with. And we've done that. But day to day, you do it how you want to do it.
So in your leadership team, what are some of the things that you do to create that culture? And then what are some of the things that all of you on your leadership do with managers and shift leaders, or however that looks in the different franchises, that's just that way of giving that touch of, hey, we're different. We live by a different standard, and we love people differently, and we treat people differently. So first, on your leadership team, what are some of the things that you do there to really strengthen culture? And then how do you get that, as some people would say, out to the field?
Yeah. Well, as you know, when you're scaling, everyone's got to get on board with the vision and the values of the company and all that. So once you got your leadership team bought into that, and everyone's got the same mission, whatever that is, and it's honoring God in whatever your business is, then you're talking about it all the time. But more importantly, you're doing it, living it, and then inviting them to events. Some churches, sometimes the church is putting on something. Sometimes maybe it's just a fundraiser that is a great speaker, that's a Christian-based speaker or something, exposing them to opportunities for them to try to grow their relationship with the Lord.
Have you ever faced a tension that really made you stop and tested your faith to say, am I really going to follow God? Am I really going to honor God in this next step, even though it doesn't make sense? And that turned out really well. You look back on it and go, man, I'm so glad I made that pivotal decision then.
Yes. Yeah. When I left pharmaceutical career and got into Christian Brothers Automotive, my neighbor told me about the brand and the company. And as I started investigating them, come to find out it was two friends from Sunday school class. They were Christian brothers, and that's where they got the name.
Okay.
And the mission statement is to honor God with honest and ethical automotive repair. And man, they put it out there. And my wife is saying, "Man, you make a really good living in pharmaceutical sales, and I don't think you should leave that." And we have a son graduating from high school and a daughter her junior year in high school, and man, I don't know if you should really do that. And but I was going to make half the amount of money I was making, and give up all my 401k to do it. But it was the first thing that I really ever turned over to God with should with prayer, walk to the front at church to get extra prayer, right? And first time I've ever done that. And man, I had such a peace about it. I just knew I needed to follow what he was saying. And it turned out to be a blessing, man. We got to number one and within less than 2 years in the country. I didn't know anything about automotive repair, but he guided us through all of it. And so that's definitely the time I listened to him, but I've also had the time I didn't listen to him.
Were there some specific things that you did in preparation? Like when you decided, I think I want to go that way. Were there some things that you did that you think were really, really important, making it possible to make that transition? Maybe it's saving up. I know you already talked about investigating.
Yeah.
Talk a little bit about that, because there's going to be some people I know that watch and listen to us who say, "Man, that's a dream, but I just don't know how to get there."
Yeah.
And so if you were giving them a roadmap, maybe 3, 4, 5 steps of this is really important, what would you say?
Yeah, know the financial side of it. First of all, what's it going to take financially to get into it? And once you know you can secure that, then talk to as many already in the business, running those franchises. What does day to day look like? Because like you had mentioned in the beginning, sometimes you just buying yourself a job when you start a business. You pay a lot of money just to have a job. But ultimately you want to get multiple of them going and let other people operate that for you. And then all of a sudden it's not a job so much anymore. You're building leaders and it's a different perspective. So man, I don't know.
Okay. Well, you went somewhere that I wanted us to go. So we'll just jump in real quick. You talk about not working in, but really about building leaders. And so I suspect that's really part of your major focus now is building leaders in your leadership team, but also really developing people at the local level in each of those franchises. Why is it so important? And then what are some of the things that you do to build those leaders, to really give them the tools and what they need to lead well?
Yeah, I got to have them. There's no way you can grow without developing good leaders and having different levels of leadership in place. So it's a must if you're even wanting to grow of any kind. We are doing a John Maxwell book right now.
Maxwell Leadership.
Oh, yeah. Develop the Leader Within You 2.0. It's the second version of that. That's good. But, another good thing about franchising is you've got some owners out there that are willing to help everyone else. Right. And that network of ownership has got a lot of value to it, where you might be on your own if you're just starting your own business. But there's a lady, her and her husband, they own 21 clinics in Utah, Arizona, and Washington. And one day I was on a call with her and she told me, "You've got to develop leaders, Ron, or you're going to burn yourself out." And she stuck with me. And then she kind of mentored me a little bit with education around it. And now she's put me on the right path. And now I'm re-energized to grow people,
That's awesome. So it's so important. One of the car wash franchises that I work with a lot, they've got 57 locations, and we just started a week and a half ago now. All of their leadership team, we get together. We're doing John Maxwell's 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. It's so good. I don't know literally how many times I've read that book and how many times I've taught that book. I've worked one-on-one and with groups, but even now I don't remember that, or it hits me differently. And sometimes being spread out, people would say, "Well, you can't really have as much effect but it's vital for you. So you've got to figure out a way. And so speak to that for a second about there's a way. When it's really important, you figure out a way.
Oh,
And if
yeah.
it's not, you kind of make excuses. That's become the way people say it. But have you seen that in your own business? That if it's really important to you, a priority, you get it done.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's anything in business, right?
Mm-hmm.
Focus,
So, yeah.
focused on the most important things that move the needle. But yeah, once you've had enough pain and everyone's coming to you to put out every little fire. And when you go from one location to two, it's twice the problems. But when you go from 1 to 2 to 3, it's like 10 times the problem.
I'm laughing, but it's not funny.
It's not funny. And so the number of issues and stuff pile up so quickly. And if you don't have people you won't be able to manage. You can't do without it. So
if a kingdom-minded leader is considering franchising as a path right now, somebody watching or listening to us, what spiritual lens do you think they should adopt before really digging in? Like if you were saying, remember, this is who you are, and these are the things that really matter. What are some of the things that you think are important for kingdom-minded leaders, owners, people wanting to franchise to keep in mind?
Yeah. First, I would make sure whatever business you are wanting to open can honor God and what that business is. Right. There's businesses out there you don't want to be in because doesn't honor Him. After that, really it's just a matter of, to me, getting deep in prayer life, because He's going to speak to you one way or the other. And
I think the more you're able to actually slow down, the clearer you hear Him, though.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's hard to slow down, isn't it?
It is, but you have to. And I'm part of Rooted right now. I'm learning more about that as well. But yes.
I hate to interrupt, but I think that's so important. Go ahead.
No, you're right. But then also get 5 or 6 of your friends who know you best and ask honest questions to them and ask them to give you honest feedback. Because I've seen people do this, and some of the feedback they were given wasn't what they wanted to hear. But it was eye-opening enough for them to not go open that business, because they learned maybe they weren't really cut out to be opening their own business. And thankfully, someone told them before they invested too much money in it and lost it all. So get advice from others that know you best, because it's not easy being an entrepreneur. Most people fail. And so it's just get good advice.
So now after 15 or so years, would you say it's been worth it?
Absolutely.
Is there anything you've changed?
Oh, yes.
I think these are important things.
Yes.
If we could share with somebody the things, I tell people, basically all the coaching I do is, let me tell you what not to do. I'll learn the hard way.
Same here. Yeah. That's the first thing that came to my mind was listen to when God says, don't do it. Okay. Because sometimes you can think, oh, I've had a little success. I can go do it here. I can go do it here. It's just as easy for me to do it in any business. That is not the case. He will humble you quickly, but not listening to Him and trying to think I can do it on my own has cost me so much time and heartache and money because I just didn't listen to the Holy Spirit. So those are the huge mistakes I made. If I could go back, but what was the question? I went to the negative first, but
to say what was it worth it? And then what are some of the challenges, really hard things that you go, if I could go back and change this, I wouldn't have done this, or I'd have done it this way, or I wouldn't have done it as fast. I could think of sometimes for me where I'm usually really fast, and then sometimes I slow down and I've missed opportunities and look back. You knew you should have done that. You should have pulled the trigger. You should have moved faster. Yeah. And then sometimes I go, well, for me, even procrastination. I am not a procrastinator, but if I sense something in my spirit, and this is that sensitivity, or what I heard you saying, like, when I go, I'm going to do that. Yeah, I want to do that, but I just never do. That finally it's going, hey, there's a reason you're not doing that. There's something that's not right in your heart and mind. And you mentioned alignment many times already. Yeah. And so that alignment with God, with your team is so important. And when it feels like there's something off there, I think it's important to check that out. But maybe some other things like that you go, man, if I could go back, I would have done this or would have done that.
Well, being in tune and hearing that is important, the most important thing. But slower is probably always better.
Dave Ramsey likes to say, I've read the book over and over and over about the tortoise and the hare, and the tortoise always wins.
Right.
And I'm like, I don't want to go slow.
Right. Yeah. And I was a follower of him too early on. Yeah. There's some wisdom in that guy.
And I think for me, that was one of the things that was really important for me to be able to do the things that invest in the businesses and buy businesses and build businesses is I'm encouraging. I have 2 young daughters, one's 30, one's 34. It's so important for you to be conservative now.
Yeah.
Save money, invest. I bought my first investment property when I was 18. And, we lived really frugally.
Yeah.
But it gave us, when I started, we're debt free, got money in the bank, and we're living on less than it takes.
Yeah.
And so it also took some of that off. And when you've got that financial stress, it really changes everything else. Your everything is filtered by that.
Right.
And so I think that's one of them to go, hey, it's hard, period.
Yeah.
Don't make it harder by going into debt and,
every
people who've done the payday loans because they started their business and they don't even have money to live on. And so they're doing payday loan kind of stuff and higher interest. And you don't have a chance. You can't make it.
Every young couple should do financial peace. I don't know if that's still called that now.
I think they changed the name.
Change the name, but
Total Money Makeover. I think.
Yeah, learn his concepts for sure. Yeah, what I've learned is it's always better to be in the business all the time.
Okay. Right.
Meaning, if you got 1 or 2 or 3 out here in Lubbock and you can be in those regularly, that's so much better than trying to do multiple locations spread across the state of Texas, type situation. It's just, they always do better when the owner's there all the time. So just because you think, I want to scale and get bigger and bigger, sometimes just having 1 or 2 great ones are better than 4 or 5 mediocres.
Right. And I think that's even the Chick-fil-A, so many people talk about Chick-fil-A, but they really limit the number of stores a franchisee can have for that reason. They want you in every one of your locations to just make sure that it runs the way you want it to. Ron, thank you for your time. I want to ask you one more question. If you were talking to a person who, they're a person of faith, but they're just really not sure, like they struggle saying, I've got my business life, and then I've got my faith, my spiritual life, and I'm not sure that it's okay to put those together. They feel like they're supposed to be separate. What would you say to that person to encourage them that, as I said, you've got one life, and if you can limit this one, there's a problem. What would you say to them, and what encouragement would you?
Yeah. Well, I don't feel like you can do them separately. You can't have Jesus at home and not have him in the office. And you're missing out on the opportunity to minister to your team and your customers and the people you deal with in the business side of things. So, man, everybody knows you spend a 30-year life at work. So at least, right. So you're doing it for God at home. Do it for God at work too. And man, you're going to impact some lives and make a difference. So I'd say go for it. You got to just inject it into every aspect of it. And it's always good to do it at the first year when you're coming out with new mission, vision, values. But if you hadn't done that yet this year, it's still only mid-February.
Today's a good day to start. Take that leap of faith. Just like you did getting into this.
That's right.
It's take that leap of faith and say, let me step out and see what happens if I do it his way.
Right.
And if I'm honest about what I really believe.
And it's never going to be perfect. Just do it. Go learn as you go.
Well, Ron, thank you so much for joining us. And I know that you've got a lot. If you've got any questions, follow up. If somebody wanted to contact you, any way they can learn more about you, contact you if they've got some questions or.
Yeah, I'm on LinkedIn. Probably the best place to catch me.
All right. Yeah. So jump on LinkedIn, Ron Bostic. Thank you so much for joining us on Kingdom Entrepreneur. And I hope that today's episode is one that is going to bless you and maybe encourage you, challenge you even to really bring all of your life together and to let your faith shape everything you do. At Kingdom Entrepreneur, we make it clear that it's his kingdom The whole earth is his. But he's called us to partner with him and to do things his way. And it's hard sometimes, but it's always worth it. And so also encourage you to share the show and follow us on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and let it out. Give us a thumbs up. We appreciate everything you can do. And if you want any more information, you can contact me. All my stuff is at rayyoung.net. And I would love to have your feedback, any encouragement. Look forward to hearing from you.